Welcome class to Introduction to Python, Chapter 8 Functions of your Python Crash Course textbook. In this chapter, you'll learn to write functions, which are named blocks of codes designed to do one specific job. When you want to perform a particular task that you defined in a function, you'll call the function responsible for it. If you need to perform that task multiple times throughout your program, you don't need to type all the code for the same task again and again. You'll just call the function dedicated to handling that task, and the call tells Python to run the code inside the function. You'll find that using functions makes your programs easier to write, read, test, and fix. In this chapter, we're going to learn how to write and pass information to functions in a variety of ways. You'll learn how to write certain functions whose primary job is to display information, and other functions designed to process data and return a value or a set of values. Finally, you'll learn how to store functions in separate files called modules to help organize your main program files. So I'm going to break Chapter 8 up into 5 separate videos. We'll use this video to cover the objectives defining a function, passing information to a function, arguments and parameters, positional arguments, keyword arguments, default values, and avoiding argument errors. So first, looking at the syntax of how do we define a function. We have our def keyword, and then the name of our function, and in this case it's greet_user. Now the names of our functions are going to follow the same naming conventions that we learned when we learned how to create variables. Following that line, we have a docstring, and the docstring is required. It's required documentation by the PEP8 group. So we want to do our 3 quotes and then create kind of like a comment describing what the function is going to do. And then we'll have the body of our function, okay, which will contain our Python statements. So you'll notice again that this line ends in a colon, just like our for statements did. And so then we're going to go ahead and just tab in one tab for our lines. Our function call is found outside of the function, and it's just the name of the function followed by a set of parentheses. So let's go ahead and run this code, and this file is called greeter.py. It can be found in your book in the very first section here under defining a function. So let's go ahead and run it, and we'll notice that we just get the output of print hello. Okay, so just get the hello with the explanation at the end. So at no point we have any information inside of the parentheses on the call or on the function definition. Here we're going to pass information, and we're going to talk about what is a parameter and what is an argument. So in this case, we are going to add an argument of Jesse to our function call, and then we're adding a parameter called username, and then we're going to go ahead and use username within the function body itself. So let's go ahead and modify our greeter file to do just that. So Jesse, username, and we'll have to convert this to a f string so we can go ahead and use username. And I'll throw a comma in here for grammar. So now when we run it, it says hello Jesse. Now we can further add to this by adding the method title so that we get Jesse with an uppercase letter. I misspelled title here. And there we have hello Jesse at the bottom. So this is what we call a parameter, and Jesse is what we call an argument. Now what you call them when you refer to them, it doesn't really matter. If you're out there working on maybe debugging some code and you're reading through a forum, you might want to know the terminology then, because they might refer to something as an argument versus a parameter. So inside the function definition, it's called a parameter. inside the function call, it's called an argument. Passing arguments. So beyond just the one value that we did with greeter, we can pass arguments, multiple arguments, and we can pass them in a positional way, in a keyword way. We can also pass lists and dictionaries. So as we continue through chapter 8, we'll visit each one of these. So let's first look at positional. So we're going to come to a new file, and it's called pets.py. We're going to create a function called describePet with two parameters, and then we're going to work through some function calls. So coming over, we'll go ahead and look at pets. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and type up this file. Okay, so breaking down the code, we have a function call on line 8. So here's our function call. And this function call has our arguments in it. Okay, and from there, we'll explain how that goes. So I'm just going to do some drawing. So hamster is going to be stored in the property or the parameter animal type. Harry is going to go to pet name. And this is what we call positional because they're in the order. So if I mess around and put Harry before hamster, I'm not going to get the same information that I expect. So let me go ahead and erase these lines. And let's go ahead and run this file. Okay, and it says I have a hamster and my hamster's name is, let me get name spelled right here. I'll rerun that. Okay, now if I were to just say what I did before, where I would have switched these around and run this again, okay, now it says I have a Harry and my Harry's name is hamster. So the order matters when it comes to positional because at this point Harry has to be stored in animal type and hamster has to be stored in pet name in the way that they're coded. Next, we'll look at keyword arguments. So keyword arguments means that they have a label associated with the value. So a name value pair, just like when we're working with dictionaries. So there's no need to worry about the order of arguments in a function call when it comes to keyword arguments because the keyword clarifies the role of each value in a function. So we're going to adjust describePet function call to have the label of the key animal type, and it has to match what's up in the parameter list, and here we have pet name as well. So again, order does not matter because of the keys defined, but those key names must be exact. Okay, so keywords have been added. Let's go ahead and run it. We get the same results. Now if I take these and I just switch the order around, I'm going to make sure I cut that. Okay, so pet name is now first in my function call and animal type is now second. I run it and I still get the same results. Okay, so again, order does not matter for our keyword arguments. Let's add some default values. So we can define a default value for a parameter, and we're going to define the default value for the pet, okay, the animal type, to be dog. So if an argument for a parameter is provided in the function call, Python uses the argument value. If not, it uses the parameter's default value. So in this bullet right here, it would override the default value if you exclude argument and function call if using the default value. So you can exclude that, and we'll do a couple function calls so you can see the difference. Python interprets arguments as positional in the function definition. So order may need to be changed. The default values will be last. So coming over to our code, we are going to set up the animal type to be dog by default. Okay, and I had to move it to the very end because again it's considered positional, and I'll actually switch them so you can see what would happen. But now let's create another when I do another call here, and we'll do pet name of Willie. And when I run this, okay, it says now I have a dog and my dog's name is Willie. Because if it's the default value, I don't need to repeat it. So let's switch these around. Just see what kind of error we'll get here. Okay, it comes back and it says syntax error, non-default argument follows default argument. So it's recognizing that this is a default argument or a default parameter, okay, but this doesn't have a default to it, so that is a problem. So we'll go ahead and we'll switch them back. So when we work through this chapter, you're going to see that anything that we do as a default or set up something as optional, whether it be numeric or string, we're going to have them at the end of our parameter list. Equivalent function calls. So these are all different ways that you could go ahead and call describe pet, okay, and they would all work. Okay, so we did the describe pet Willie. Okay, we could say pet name equal Willie with a keyword. It doesn't matter. And with Harry, we could do positional with Harry and hamster. We could do keyword with pet name, Harry and animal type of hamster, and we could also switch the order. You can also do where you have part positional and part keyword, and we'll see that as we continue through this chapter. And then the last one is to talk about avoiding argument errors. So in this case, when we call describe pet, we're not providing the two, in this example here, the two arguments that are needed for these two parameters. So let's jump back and look at our code. Okay, and if I try just this, describe pet, and run it, okay, I'm going to get describe pet missing one required positional argument of pet name. And that's absolutely true because this is the one that's not defaulted. So one positional. So I'm sure you probably have had that error with regards to alien invasion. So in this case, just to solve it, we would just have to throw in a name. Okay, and in this case, I could do Ross, and then I could put animal type here of cat. Okay, so this would correspond to the positional argument pet name, but here I've got a keyword, right? So I'm mixing positional and keyword in this example to accomplish what I need to accomplish for this particular pet. So next we're going to look at our assignment for this particular section, and we're going to complete 8-3 lab together, and then you'll go ahead and modify for 8-4. 8-3 t-shirt. Write a function called make shirt that accepts the size and text of a message that should be printed on the shirt. So let's jump over to our editor, and I'm going to call it 8-4 so that you can go ahead and just build off of this. So function called make shirt, okay, and it's going to accept a size and a message. Okay, I'm going to have you insert an appropriate doc string in there, and then we'll come back over here. This function, the function should print a sentence summarizing the size of the shirt and the message printed on it. Okay, so we're going to have a print statement in here. Okay, and again, I'll let you come up with this print statement. So again, you're going to put in the size, okay, and the message. Okay, so put some extra text in there. And then we're going to start making function calls. It says call the function once using positional arguments to make a shirt, and then call a function the second time using keyword arguments. So we want to go ahead and put in some positional arguments here. So I'll let you go ahead and do that too. then this one is going to use keyword arguments. Okay, just as we went over them in the chapter. So that's 8-3. Okay, next we're going to look at 8-4. So this is the one that you're going to continue to build on. So modify make shirt function so that the shirts are large by default with a default message that reads I love Python. Okay, so coming back here, okay, you're going to set both of these up as defaults. Okay, so whatever size you want to be, and then the or did it tell us the size? Yep, large by default, and then the message of Python. So I'm going to say large, and I love Python. Then we're going to do some more function calls. So we'll have make shirt. We're going to do it 3 more times. Okay, write a function, or sorry, make a large shirt. Okay, so here's one function call. Okay, so remember that when you have default values and you don't need to change them, you do not need to provide the argument. So make a large shirt and a medium shirt, and then with a default message, and a shirt of any size with a different message. So coming back here, this is going to be a large shirt, medium shirt, not hitting the right keys, and then this one is going to be any size with a different message. Right, and that will be your 8-4. Okay, so 5 function calls will be in there. So don't forget to put in the docstring, and if you have any questions, please let me know.